You wake up every morning and feel like something is fundamentally broken inside you. You look at your reflection in the mirror and see a man you don't recognize. Someone who should be conquering the world, but instead is trapped in his own mind, doubting every word before speaking it, rehearsing conversations that never happen, feeling how the weight of insecurity crushes any attempt to move with purpose. You see other men walking through life as if they own the space they occupy, speaking without fear, acting without hesitation, while you remain trapped in an endless cycle of analysis and paralysis. You know exactly what I'm talking about because you live it every day. That feeling of having locked potential that never manages to manifest. That frustration of knowing you could be more, but something invisible keeps you small. Before we continue, I need to make something absolutely clear to you. This video was not created to entertain you with flashy images blinking on the screen every 3 seconds. It was created to teach you something that can completely transform the way you move through the world, but only if you really pay attention to what is being said. We're not going to waste time putting in miraculous edits to keep your brain stimulated like you're a child seeking distraction. This is a video for men who want real development, not for those seeking empty entertainment. The value is in the audio, in every word, in every principle I'm going to share with you. If you came looking for quick cuts and visual effects, there are thousands of other videos out there. But if you want real evolution, stay and listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal to you can change your life completely. I have studied for years the psychology of men who move through the world with a confidence that seems almost unnatural. Men like Thomas Shelby who walk into rooms full of danger with the same calm with which others walk into their living rooms. And I discovered something fundamental that most people completely ignore. The confidence they possess is not something they were born with. It's not a magical gift granted by genetics or luck. It's a meticulous construction, a mental architecture that can be replicated if you understand the correct principles. The difference between a man who constantly doubts and a man who acts with absolute certainty doesn't lie in his intrinsic value or his real capabilities. It lies in how they have programmed their mind to interpret the world and their place in it. Today I'm going to share with you 5 fundamental principles that I have extracted from studying men like Shelby. Principles that, when implemented correctly, transform the way you present yourself to the world and how the world responds to you. The first principle you must understand is that real confidence is not built in comfort. It's forged in repeated action under pressure. Most men wait to feel confident before acting, but this is exactly backwards from how human psychology works. Observe how strategic leaders like Thomas Shelby operate. They don't wait for fear to disappear before moving. They move precisely when fear is present and discover that fear diminishes with action, not before it. Your brain is designed to protect you from danger, which is why it generates anticipatory anxiety every time you face something unknown or threatening. But here's the secret that changes everything. Your brain cannot distinguish between real danger and perceived danger. It treats a difficult conversation with the same biological alarm with which it would treat a physical attack. When you act despite fear, you send a powerful signal to your nervous system. You tell it that the danger it perceived wasn't real, and with each repetition of this cycle, your activation threshold rises. This means that situations that previously paralyzed you begin to feel neutral, and situations that previously made you nervous begin to feel normal. Confidence is literally the cumulative result of surviving moments where your mind predicted catastrophe, but reality proved otherwise. That's why men who have faced extreme situations, whether in ruthless business, in hostile environments, or in high-stakes negotiations, develop that unshakable presence. Their nervous system has been recalibrated through repeated exposure. You're not waiting to feel confident. You're acting until your biology catches up with your will. The second principle is understanding that authentic confidence is built on real competence, not on empty affirmations. You can repeat to yourself in front of the mirror 1,000 times that you're valuable. But if you don't have tangible skills to back up that narrative, your subconscious will always know the truth, and that internal incongruence will manifest as doubt. Men like Shelby don't derive their confidence from pretty words. They derive it from knowing with absolute certainty that they possess the necessary capabilities to handle the situations they face. When you enter a negotiation, knowing that you've studied every detail, that you've anticipated every possible move, that you've developed the necessary communication and analysis skills, your confidence is not unfounded arrogance. It's the internal recognition of preparation. This is crucial because most men seek shortcuts to confidence. They want to feel powerful without doing the work of becoming powerful. But your mind is too intelligent for that deception. True transformation occurs when you dedicate time to developing real competencies, whether in your profession, in your physical capacity, in your ability to communicate, or in your understanding of human psychology. Every hour you invest in becoming genuinely more capable is a direct investment in your future confidence, because you don't hope that you can handle whatever comes. And here's the beautiful detail. This type of confidence is immune to external opinions. When your security is anchored in real capabilities and not in external validation, the criticisms of others become irrelevant because you know the truth of what you can do. The third principle that separates men with ordinary confidence from those with magnetic presence is the absolute mastery of your internal emotional state. Most people are slaves to their emotions. They react automatically to every external stimulus like puppets with invisible strings. Someone speaks to them with an aggressive tone and they get defensive. Someone criticizes them and they crumble. Someone shows them disapproval and they begin to justify themselves. But observe how strategic men handle emotional pressure. They have trained the ability to create space between the stimulus and their response. When someone tries to provoke them, there's an imperceptible pause where they evaluate the situation with coldness before deciding how to respond, and that decision is never emotional. It's always strategic. This capacity is not mystical. It's the result of training your mind to observe your emotions without being controlled by them. Think of it as developing a metacognition muscle, the ability to be aware of your own mental processes while they are occurring. When you feel anger arising, instead of being carried away by it, you observe it as an interesting phenomenon, as if you were studying another person's behavior. When you feel fear before an important action, instead of paralyzing yourself, you recognize it as biological information that you can acknowledge and then ignore. This level of internal control is what generates that unnatural calm that others perceive as psychopathic confidence, because you're operating from a place of conscious choice instead of automatic reactivity. And when you develop this, you become unpredictable to those who try to manipulate you emotionally, because the tactics that work on most people, provocations, social pressure, attempts to make you feel guilty, simply bounce off you without any effect. The fourth principle is understanding that your body language communicates more than your words, and men with genuine confidence have mastered the art of non-verbal communication. Your body is constantly transmitting messages about your internal state, and other human beings are programmed to read those signals at a subconscious level. When you walk with dropped shoulders, lowered gaze, hurried steps, and nervous movements, you're shouting insecurity without uttering a word. But when you enter a space with a lined spine, deliberate movements, sustained eye contact, and controlled gestures, you're communicating something completely different. Here's what's fascinating. The relationship between your physiology and your psychology is bidirectional. It's not just that your internal confidence generates powerful body language. Your powerful body language also generates internal confidence. This means you can hack your own nervous system by consciously adopting the posture and movements of someone confident, and your brain will begin to produce the chemicals corresponding to that state. Men like Shelby understand this intuitively. That's why they move with economy of movement. There's never excessive gesticulation. There's never rush in their actions. Every movement has purpose and control. Practice this consciously. When you walk, do it as if you had all the time in the world. When you speak, eliminate nervous gestures from your hands. When you're in conversation, hold eye contact longer than you feel comfortable. At first, it will feel unnatural, as if you're acting, but with repetition, it becomes your natural way of moving through the world. And in that process, something profound changes in how you perceive yourself and how others perceive you. The fifth principle is the most counterintuitive, but perhaps the most powerful of all. Real confidence includes the complete acceptance of your vulnerability and mortality. This sounds contradictory because most people think confidence means invincibility, but it's exactly the opposite. Men who operate with psychopathic confidence like Shelby are not in denial about the risks they face. They're completely aware of them and accept them as part of the game. They have made peace with the possibility of failure, rejection, loss, and even death, and that acceptance frees them to act without the paralyzing weight of existential fear. When you're no longer fighting against the reality that things can go wrong, when you've integrated that truth into your worldview, you move with a freedom that others cannot comprehend. Most men live in constant resistance against uncertainty. They spend massive amounts of mental energy trying to control the uncontrollable, to guarantee results that cannot be guaranteed, and that internal struggle keeps them in a perpetual state of anxiety. But when you accept that you can lose everything, that you can be rejected, that you can fail spectacularly, and decide to act anyway, you access a different type of power. It's the power of someone who has nothing to lose because they've already released the neurotic attachment to specific outcomes. This is not nihilism or fatalism. It's the mature acceptance of the nature of existence. Everything is temporary. Everything involves risk. And the only relevant question is whether you're going to live fully despite that or waste your time in the illusion of security. Men who have internalized this truth move differently, speak differently, exist differently, because they have transcended the primal fear that keeps most people in invisible cages. Now, let me tell you something important before we continue. If this content is resonating with you, if you feel like finally someone is speaking truths that others avoid, do me a favor and give this video a like. I'm not asking you this to feed my ego. I'm asking you because that simple gesture tells the algorithm that this type of content has value, and that means more men who need to hear this will see it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to continue receiving knowledge that really transforms, not superficial entertainment that makes you feel good for 5 minutes and then leaves you exactly where you were. We're not playing here. We're building different men, and I need you to be part of this community if you're really committed to your evolution. Now let's continue, because there's more you need to understand. These 5 principles I just shared with you are not abstract theory. They are the exact map that separates men who live reactively from those who architect their reality. But here's the point most people don't understand. Knowing these principles changes nothing if you don't implement them with fanatical discipline. We live in an era where information is everywhere, but transformation is rare, because information without application is just intellectual entertainment. You can know everything about confidence and still be insecure. You can perfectly understand the psychology of power and still be weak, because knowledge without action is impotence disguised as wisdom. What separates men like Thomas Shelby from the rest is not that they know things others ignore. It's that they apply what they know with relentless consistency until it becomes their nature. Every morning they wake up and deliberately choose to be the version of themselves they have decided to build, even when they don't feel like it, even when it's difficult, even when nobody is watching. That's the difference. Discipline over motivation, systems over inspiration, identity over occasional behavior. Understand something fundamental about the nature of human change. Your current identity, the person you are today, with all your insecurities and limitations, is simply the result of years of conditioning and repetition. It's not who you really are, it's who you've practiced being. And if that's true, then the implication is revolutionary. You can practice being someone different with the same intensity, and with enough repetition, that new version becomes your default identity. Every time you act despite fear, you're voting for the identity of a brave man. Every time you keep your word when it's inconvenient, you're voting for the identity of a reliable man. Every time you choose truth over social comfort, you're voting for the identity of a man with integrity. Your future identity is being determined by the micro decisions you make every day, and the beauty of this is that you have total control over those decisions. You can't control where you were born. You can't control the cards you were dealt. You can't control how others initially perceive you, but you can control who you decide to be in response to all that. And that's the only freedom that really matters, the freedom to choose your response to life. What I've shared with you today is not temporary motivation that fades in 3 days. It's an operating manual to rebuild your psychology from the foundations. Men, like Thomas Shelby, are not a product of chance, they are a product of principles applied with surgical precision. And now you have those same principles. The question that remains is simple but defining. What are you going to do with this information? Are you going to leave it as just another video you consumed and forgot? Or are you going to treat it as the breaking point that separates your life into a before and after? Because I promise you something, if you implement what you've learned here, if you really integrate it and live it, in 6 months you're not going to recognize the man in the mirror. You're going to walk differently, you're going to speak differently, you're going to exist differently. And the world is going to respond accordingly, because people always respond to who you really are, not to who you pretend to be. The confidence you're looking for is not in another video, it's not in another course, it's not in external validation. It's in the decision to become the type of man who doesn't need confidence because he's already capable. Now go and build that.